Good day, students. Welcome to a new class of skill education. In our previous sessions, we had completed some employability skills like green skills, self-management skills, entrepreneurial skills, and in-depth detail about the ICT skills. Now, today we are going to cover the last skill of employability, which is called as communication skills. So communication skills is the one of the units of skill education under employability. Under employability skills, let us go into the details of this particular skill. Now, what is communication? Communication is the exchange of information by signs and signals, writing, speaking, or some other medium or means whereby you send, receive, and understand a message or an information. So this is what is communication. So development of interpersonal skills express effectively with maximum efficiency is what is communication. So any message that you need to send to another person through any medium is called as communication. Now, there is something called as a communication cycle. So, let us understand that. Communication cycle is the process by which a message is sent to an individual. It passes through a chain of recipients. The timing and effectiveness of the communication cycle is based on how long it takes for feedback to be received by the initial sender. So, when a particular cycle is there, that is a sender sends a message through some particular media and it is received by the recipient. Now how effective the communication cycle is depends upon how fast the feedback comes from the person who is receiving the message. So let us look at the different aspects of a communication process cycle. So the components of a communication cycle are: first is the sender, a person or an entity who originates the communication. So a person who sends the message or the organization that sends a message is the originator of the communication. Then there is the actual message, that is the information which the sender wishes to send or convey. Encoding the message, that is how the sender is going to bring the message, send the message to the appropriate person, is what is the encoding. That is whether he will write it or send it by gestures or voice record it or send it by some other media, that is called as encoding. The channel through which the message is sent is the next aspect, that is how this message that is encoded is going to be actually sent, whether it is by written letter, by email, etc. Next is the receiver. The person who actually receives, to whom the message is supposed to be sent to, is called as the receiver of the message. The next is decoding. That means how the receiver interprets and understands that message is called as decoding. And finally, the feedback. That means the actual receiver's response to the message. So these are basically the components of an entire communication cycle. I hope you have understood it. That is the sender, the message, the encoder, the medium through which you send it, the receiver, the decoding, and the actual feedback of the message. Next is, let us look at what are the different types of communication. So communication can be of four types, basically: verbal communication, non-verbal communication, visual communication, and written communication. So these are the basic four ways in which we can communicate to our messages to each other. Now, what is verbal communication? Verbal communication is the use of language to transfer or share information by speaking or sign language. This is one of the most important types, often used during presentations, video conferences, phone calls, meetings, or one-on-one conversation. So most of the time our communication with people are through a verbal media. So whenever and it is through a language that we share that information, or even it could be sign language that we say, or shoo, or come, or go, like this, whatever it is a verbal communication whereby we are speaking something along with gestures. It is used mostly when we are doing one-on-one communication in meetings, video conferences, during classes, during presentations, conferences. All this is verbal communication. Now, what are the advantages of verbal communication? First is, verbal communication saves a lot of time because it can be quickly understood and said. It saves money because there is no need of paper or any flyers or spellings, nothing like that. So it is very, very quickly. You are just speaking out, so it requires no effort or money. Feedback is very quick because the receiver at that any point of time, if he doesn't understand, can immediately stop you and give the feedback of that message, and also the sender can give immediate feedback. The receiver can when the sender is sending it, looking at the expression of the receiver, he can understand whether the receiver has actually understood the message or no. So it's a very convenient method all over globally to communicate with each other. Next is, it is ease of preparation. So oral communication is the easiest way because you do not need any particular preparations, exclusive preparations to be done while giving an oral communication to one another. It's just like normal speaking. It is a part of your routine. So these are some of the advantages of verbal communication. But there are certain disadvantages also to this verbal communication. The ease with which we do verbal communication, it comes with a lot of disadvantages. First is, there is chances of distortion of the message. So whenever I'm speaking, suppose somebody speaks very fast or some speaks slow or some is not legible. So there is a chance that the message actually which is meaning to be told to another person gets distorted. Now, if the message is very, very long, that means if some information is very, very long and which needs to be conveyed, then verbal communication is not an easy way to communicate it for long messages. Sometimes when I'm communicating something, the most important part of the message may get lost in some irrelevant information which is put on along with the message. So when we are speaking, so we may beat around. Some people have the habit of beating around the bush. They will not come to the actual point. They will talk about all other things other than the main topic. So irrelevant information can seep into a message. So that is another disadvantage. There can be misunderstandings, especially when people of different languages communicate, or if there is a language barrier among communication, then it becomes very, very difficult because there can be misunderstandings in the actual communication. And also, suppose there is a person who does not understand, for example, on high level government organizations, when there is or even in places where two people do not understand the language, then they might need a third person as an interpreter or a translator to translate the messages to each other. This generally happens during diplomatic ties with countries among each other. So you need to appoint people who are translators or interpreters. So it comes with a particular cost. So these are some of the disadvantages of verbal communication. The next we go on is to non-verbal communication. So non-verbal communication is the use of body language and gestures and facial expressions to convey a message to one another. Here there are no words used. It is only using the gestures and facial expressions that you can convey. You try to convey a message to the other person. Now, what are the advantages of non-verbal communication? It is complementary. So, non-verbal communication is basically a complementary to the verbal communication. You generally, sometimes people have the habit of using their eyes, using their hands and gestures to create. When they are talking, they have the habit of moving their arms around or making faces or making expressions with their faces. So, all this is a complementary to the verbal communication. Easy presentation. So information can be easily presented in a non-verbal communication using audio, visuals, silent means of communication, visual. If I don't want to explain anything verbally, I can just show a video of it or an audio. I can play an audio. So that also comes as a part of non-verbal communication. Substitute. Non-verbal communications may substitute verbal communication, especially when there is a lot of blockage of noise or interpreting or long distance or a language barrier. So sometimes when there are a lot of disturbance in the room and you're trying to shout and tell the students please keep quiet, or you can just clap or maybe put a finger on the lips. So these are gestures which can be done to instead of giving a verbal communication. Also it can be during a time when there is a lot of noise in the room, or when there is a language barrier between people, or there's long distance and you want to call somebody. If a person is standing very far away and you want to call him, then you can just clap and call the person, come here, like this. So this is called as, so it can substitute verbal communication in certain places. Also, it reduces time on wastage. The message on a non-verbal communication reaches the very much more faster. So non-verbal cues like signs, symbols, etc. are very quickly understood more than written communication. So these are some of the advantages of doing non-verbal communication. But some of disadvantages are also there. That maybe it is very vague and imprecise. So non-verbal communication can be pretty vague at times because you do not know what the other person may actually not understand what you are meaning with those gestures and facial expressions. It is continuous. It is possible to stop talking in verbal communication, but it's generally not possible when you are giving some non-verbal cues. For example, if you are playing a video and a person does not understand it, or an audio, the person is not, so you can't stop it in the middle and this thing, because it is continuous. It cannot be stopped. Now, multi-channels. While watching someone's eyes, you may miss out on something very significant which he's doing with his hand. So he may tell something he may show an anger on his face, but he may be very pleased and clapping. So, then it can be a multi-channel and everything is happening at once. So sometimes you may miss out on particular cues which are given to you. So that becomes a big problem in non-verbal. Then it's culture bound. It means that some gestures which are positive in certain cultures, like the thumbs up gesture in US, maybe is considered as very bad in some other cultures. Like, many of the things are there which we Indian nod. They say that we have something which is very important, which is called as the Indian nod. The Indians, they nod like this. So the people do not understand whether sometimes they will do like that, sometimes they will do like this. So that is called as an Indian nod. And they also do like this. This is also there. So many cultures, they do not understand what this type of nodding means. So this is a very specific thing. So because generally everybody says yes like this and no like this, but Indians keep on shaking their head like this way, this way. So this is something which is culture bound, which becomes a big problem. Long conversations are not at all possible with non-verbal communications. So it is long conversations are necessarily, you cannot explain it with the help of non-verbal communication, long conversations. So these are some of the disadvantages of non-verbal communication. Now, what is body language? So when communication of non-verbal type comes, then very important factor which comes into play is the body language of a person. So body language includes facial expressions, postures, gesture, touch, the use of space, eye movements, etc. So all this is called as kinesthetics. So now whenever somebody is doing a non-verbal communication, their body language and all these aspects of the body language come into play. So when there are certain do's and don'ts for a person who is doing a non-verbal communication, let us go into the do's and don'ts of body language. So the do's of body language are: you should always make direct eye contact when you are talking. Next is have a firm handshake. Suppose you are shaking hands with somebody, it should be very firm. Check your facial expressions that it matches the words. You are angry and you are smiling, then that is a wrong cue or a wrong communication. So if your whatever you are saying, your facial expression should match that particular message that you are giving. Be very neutral and natural in your gestures. Do not be over use of hands and over use of expressions and head and face and all. You should be very natural and always maintain a positive and receptive posture. Like, you're somebody is telling you something and you're looking in some other direction and not even looking at him, and looking down and this thing. So maintain a very receptive posture when somebody else is talking. Refrain from sending mismatched messages. Whenever you're sending a message, it has to be proper. It should not mismatch with the message. Then watch the actions which are taken for as defensiveness, that also, and be engaged and involved in the so your body language should show receptiveness, and your action should be, it should not be taken as defensiveness, that you are defensive. Like, there are certain people who don't like to be told anything and they start getting very defensive and offensive when somebody else is speaking to them. So try to see to it that you don't do such things, and you are always engaged and involved in the conversation when you are communicating using to each other. So these are some of the do's of good body language. What are the don'ts of body language? One is rubbing your hands together during a very important meeting, leaning back in a meeting with friends or close, leaning back. You keep on leaning back and you keep on looking here and there, crossing your arms during an interesting conversation. You should not cross your arms and stand when you're talking something very important. That is a very casual attitude. Not making eye contact, making too much of eye contact. That means not blinking at all, just looking and staring at a person. That is also wrong. Not making eye contact and looking around here and there, that is also wrong. Fidgeting with other things, fidgeting with the mobile, fidgeting with the bag, and or something's on the table, that is also a bad way. Touching your face too often is also considered bad way of using the body language. So these are some of the don'ts of body language. Then we come to a very, very important part of communication, which is the written communication, which is very important part of a person's academic as well as your official and professional career. So written communication is the act of writing, typing or printing symbols like letters and numbers to convey information. Writing is commonly used to share information through books, pamphlets, blogs, letters, memos, emails, SMS, etc. All these ways of conveying information, that is SMS, blog, letter, pamphlets, memos, all are through the written way of communication. So what are the advantages of this written communication? One is that it is a permanent record. A written communication helps to maintain permanent record of the information and exchanged or shared. It is a meticulous presentation. So every document is curated, covers all major information pointers necessary to be communicated. So whatever communication is needed to be done, that has to be done very meticulously when we give it in a written form. Easy circulation. So any document can be easily circulated in an organization, unlike oral communication. So in oral communication, what happens? You can tell one person, the other person will. So it will become like Chinese whisper and the whole information may get distorted. Whereas if I send a mail to everybody in the organization, I can CC it, send it to everybody. Or if I'm sending a message through WhatsApp in a group, then everybody gets the same message. So it is very easy for circulation. Suitable for statistical data. So whenever I'm having any data which is statistical, that is it is having numbers and charts, graphs, etc., then doing that in the form of a verbal or a non-verbal communication is very, very difficult. Then the best method of doing statistical and data and charts, graphs, pictures, etc. is through written communication. And the last one is it promotes goodwill. So when you conduct your business in a, or your academics in a very well crafted documented way, then it speaks volumes about the competency of a particular person. So when you do it in a proper written way, if your projects are done well, or you're academically, or you write your paper very well, or in a business organization the people send good communication, good letters, good emails, then it gives a very good impression about the other person who is sending the information. So these are the advantages. So what are the disadvantages? It's very, very time consuming. So because if you have to write a letter, it takes time, or to make a project, or to make a this thing. So in order to craft an impeccable piece of document, one has to invest ample amount of time. And if there is time constraint, then it becomes very shoddy also. Next is it can be non-flexible. A written document cannot be altered once it is circulated. This makes writing communication more flexible, as every written word is concrete and final. So it has to be done very carefully because it is non-flexible. See, when I'm speaking something, if I suddenly want to change something, immediately I can say, oh, so sorry, I did not want to say this. This is what I meant to say. But when in written communication, I cannot do that. It is not at all flexible. Once written or once penned and circulated around the people, then it becomes permanent. No scope for clarification. So if I send a message to somebody in a written form and that person has got a doubt immediately while reading it, then it becomes difficult to immediately clarify that point. So if it is there is no scope of immediate clarification in case of a written communication, you have to communicate back your doubts to the other person who is sending. Whereas in case of verbal time, immediately you can clarify your doubts to the receiver, can do it to the sender, or sender can immediately clarify some points immediately. Demand for writing proficiency. So in order to deliver a good message, you have to be very competent in order to deliver the message. Adequate competence in your writing sector is very, very needed, very much important, and you should be proficient in good writing. And probability of wrong interpretation. If there is complex words, very difficult sentences, lot of jargons, lot of hi-fi words which are not easy, a lot of dictionary words which people do not commonly use, then it becomes very difficult to understand and interpret the message. So these are some of the disadvantages of written communication. Now let us understand some of the perceptions of communication. So what influences the communication? So visual perception. So what we are seeing in front of us when somebody is sending a message to us or giving it, that influences the process. Language, the language that a person is communicating with, that is got a lot of importance in communication. Our past experiences, whether if you have heard the same message again and again, what past experiences we had during that time, that also has a lot of influence on the communication message. Our prejudice, sometimes we are very, very prejudiced and we have got our own ideas about certain information, and we are not ready to listen to the other person. So our prejudices cause a lot of is a factor which which influences the communication process. You know what our feelings at a given point of time. Sometimes we may be sad, we may be angry, our mood, our the way we are, that our feelings at a given point of time when that communication is happening to us, that also influences the communication. The environment where we are standing, that means suppose it's a very noisy environment and you are asked to read a very important document, or somebody is communicating something to you in the middle of a wedding or something like that, you know, where the environment where you are, or it's too silent and you can't concentrate. So all this causes, or all these are the factors which are important perceptions of communicators, that is the factors which influence our communication process. Let us now look at some of the factors that affect communication at a workplace. First is cultural diversity. Means, what is cultural diversity? When people from different cultures and different backgrounds, they are working in the same place, then there is bound to be differences in the way or their outlook to a particular situation. So when somebody is communicating something and people from different cultural diversities are there in the same place, then it causes some it affects the communication. Next is emotional differences. Some people may be very emotional. In a workplace, there are people with different diverse emotional characteristics. Some are very hot headed, some are very cool, some of them are some of them are short tempered, some of them are very difficult to manage. So such type of emotional differences also cause a lot of issues during at a workplace when communication process is going on. Next, past experiences. As I told you, many a times in an organization, if suppose a previous boss used to be very always communicating in a very angry way or shouting or this thing, or the new boss is in good, and you know, people are of different. So your past experiences, how it has been before in a particular working environment, that also affects the communication a lot. Now, educational and intellectual differences. The differences between the education, now in the same department, if there is some big important discussion going on, meeting going on, everybody's intellectual and educational level will not be the same. Some may be highly educated and experienced, some may be very low in education, or maybe just at a normal level, and their understanding or grasping power may be very less. So this type of differences in education and intellect will make a difference in the communication process. It can become a barrier or it can affect communication. Next is group affiliations. Sometimes, you know, there are groups of people who form groups in organizations, and then they only communicate among themselves, and that communication doesn't go on to the other groups. So such type of problems of group affiliation causes issues. Next is positional difference among the personnel. Now, if there are people who are in different positions. For example, a manager is communicating something to his just below subordinate, that may be different. But if a manager is communicating something to a peon who is very much below his this thing, there is a vast difference between the peon and the manager. Then sometimes the peon may not be able to actually understand what the manager is trying to tell him, or vice versa, because of the difference in the positions among them. So there also it causes some bit of a it affects the communication. Also, functional relations between the sender and the receiver. Now, what functions they are doing? For example, if there is an accounts department and a marketing department. Now, these two departments and a security department. Now, they three are trying to communicate something among each other where their functions are completely different. Accounts department is doing something different, marketing is doing something different, and they are trying to communicate among each other some particular matter. It may cause a bit of a difficulty because of the difference in the functions that they are doing in an organization. So functional differences between the sender and the receiver also affect the communication in an organization. So these are some of the factors which affect our work during the our workplace, the factors which affect communication at workplaces. Now, the most important thing which is there is the basic writing skills. Now, I am not going to go too much into details about the basic writing skills, but the basic writing skills are the your grammar which you have been learning under the English grammar part. So all the factors of basic writing skills, that is types of sentences, subject, predicate, past, present, future, and the types of phrases, all this will be a part of the writing basic writing skills. I am not going into details about the basic writing skills because you are very well aware about the grammar part of it. So basic writing skills are just, you know, I am just giving you an example, the 4 types of sentences. that is declarative, interrogative, exclamatory and imperative. I hope you know all of them, that what is a declarative, what is an interrogatory, exclamatory and an imperative statement. Like this only you may be asked in the in 10th standard exams. They may ask you to change, find out the subject, predicate, like that, you know. So simple grammatical things which you know, which you have to know to, or to be aware in your to be a good writer. That is what is the important thing about basic writing skills, which I am not going to elaborate too much because it is a part of your grammar since your standard, primary standard onwards to your 10th 8th standard. You have been learning grammar very in depth, so we are not going to cover that particular topic in detail in this session. So with this we come to the end of this particular communication skills unit. Now, I would like to inform you about the project that you are going to do for the first semester. The first semester project which you are going to be doing during your Diwali vacation and uploading it. The exact way of doing it, we will be giving you the timeline, etc. in the later stage. Now, I am just going to explain to you what we are expecting of you for the project. So, let me go into detail of that. So for the skill education project, you are going to make a project on the two ICT skills. We know that we have already learned 5 ICT skills, sorry, employability skills, that is green skills, management skills, self-management skills, entrepreneurial skills, ICT skills, and today we learned communication skills. So you are going to create a project on 2 of the ICT skills, 2 of the employability skills. One is ICT skills and one is entrepreneurial skills. Now under ICT skills, I want you to write about the types of software that we have learned, system software, application software, and with examples of each of them. Next, we are going to do about the advantages and disadvantages of social media and also the different types of cyber crime. So all this topic have been covered to you in the different videos before this. You have learned it already. So you are going to go through the videos and understand the topics and write about it. Next is, you are in the same project, you are going to write about entrepreneurial skills also. What are the different types of businesses and what are the phases of entrepreneurial development. Now for this purpose, you are going to use only, please do not go to the internet and Wikipedia and just go and download information and paste it onto the project. That is not what is expected. You are going to refer to the study material and the textbook which is there on the CBSE website. And you are going to include pictures, wherever possible. If you can draw it or some charts, etc. You can do. Using that you can create the project. Now a quick reminder of from where you can get your PDF files or study material. You click on Google and in that you will type cbse.nic.in. Go to the CBSE website, click on education, examination, and then on syllabus and curriculum. Click on skill education, and under skill education, under the books tab, you are going to click on 9th and 10th, and here you are going to get employability skills, the study material for standard 9th and the book for standard 9th. Both of them are, you can just click on the study material and the books, you go through the PDF files. The PDF will contain all the details, and from this only you are going to get the information for the topics that I have given to you in this. So the study material and the PDF, they are the textbook, they are PDF files. You can download them, see your communication skills. This is what I taught you today, the communication process, etc. This is what we have done in today's class, today's chapter. So all this is there in the notes. So ICT skills, language skills, posture, you remember all this we have completed today itself. So you are going to download the PDF study material, and using that you are going to do the project which I have asked you to do for this. So the types of software, social media, cyber, all this together, minimum 6 to 8 pages of project, both ICT skills and entrepreneurial skills together would be around 6 to 8 pages totally. You will have to create it as a good project. The covering page should be there, bibliography, exactly how you make a normal other subject project. I want a project for skill education also. So this is going to be your assignment which will cover, which you are going to do during your Diwali vacation. So with this, we come to the end of the this particular session as well as the semester. And now we will be meeting after the Diwali vacations, and after that I'm going to start with the practical part of these skill education. What exactly we are going to do, I will be explaining it to you once we resume back. Once the after the Diwali vacation, we will be having more of practical oriented subject after the Diwali. So till that time, go through the videos and enjoy yourself, be safe, and take care of yourself and your family, and have a good Diwali this year. Thank you.